word of a killer. I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
So I said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh shit. All right, bet. Here we go.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, people. We have some breaking news. Unbelievably, the jury received the were to go to decide Donald Trump's fate. And amazingly, they have already returned back with a verdict. We are currently awaiting this verdict. And we're going to continue to wait here live as we can, wait to hear what the verdict is. Donald Trump is facing over 30 felony counts. And, as you can see, everybody's starting to come out of the courtroom. We've got police officers that are beginning to surround the courtroom. A lot of questions arise. If Donald Trump is put into custody, what does that mean? Let's listen in for just a moment. Let's just listen into kind of what's going on as I continue to discuss with you all. But yes, Donald Trump, a verdict has been reached in the hush money trial. All right. This is the trial in which Donald Trump was accused of paying off Stormy Daniels, the porn actress who he had an affair with. You all, it's about to get kind of crazy here. Now, guys, what if Donald Trump is found guilty? Just what if Donald Trump is found guilty? This means the possibility of Donald Trump going behind bars is huge. And the Secret Service, from my understanding, has been in talks with the state of New York in order to, have conversations on, what do we do? If this really, really happens, if it really happens that Donald Trump is going to go behind bars for these 34 felony counts, what is that going to mean when it comes to Secret Service protecting him? As you all may or may not know, the Secret Service is still inevitably responsible for the safety of Donald Trump, even though they don't have, the wherewithal or permissions to just run the prison system. And it's also possible that Trump may go to Rikers in preparation of any penitentiary, sentence that he may receive. So this is absolutely breaking news. And we are going to continue to follow here, folks. Give me just a moment here. If you don't mind, there's no sound coming through right now. Okay. No sound coming through right now, but give me one momentum, please. All right. So right now we are waiting outside the courthouse, out of the New York City courthouse. Shout out to everybody in the chat that has joined. Shout out to the 100 of those of you on Twitter. I don't think I even put a hashtag into the Twitter feeds, and usually I do. And there's already 100 of you here, so I'm afraid if I end it and then put it back in, I don't know how many of you guys will join back. But we are looking right now. There's no sound, but we just got word that a verdict has been reached in the case of Donald Trump. That is a fast verdict. A very, very fast verdict. It's not typical. Generally, I'll tell you what, typically in situations where verdicts are returned pretty fast like this, sometimes, if more than many, it usually means that, someone may have been found liable for something. But obviously, I can't say that for sure. But this again is the hush money trial in which Donald Trump was accused of campaign violations for paying off a woman named Stormy, who he had a sexual affair with. What a downfall from grace. What a downfall from grace for Donald Trump. I gotta say, absolute downfall. Give me just one moment, please, everyone. As I said, I would be following this case, as I've been following Donald Trump for years. Give me a sec. Okay. Let's see here. Verdict has been reached. Many call Donald Trump a traitor. But there has also been a very uh, renewed effort for Donald Trump in regards to his run for president. He is running for president, for 2024. We are not too far from, you know, the presidency being called, and we're talking November, folks. And yes, Donald Trump, the jury has reached a verdict. Give me one second. All right. All right. We see people starting to line up outside. Give me a sec. I want to see if I can find a live stream of someone actually with sound. Okay. One momentum, please, guys. One momentum. Thank you. Well, let's see if we can find. There we go. Hold on. All right. Give me just a sec. All we hear right now is just people talking, folks. But we see police officers beginning to come outside. Jury has reached a decision. I will tell you right now. Let me take this back down. I will tell you right now, all cameras are pointing at the same scene at this time. All cameras are pointing at the same scene at this time. So there is no talking, but we are expecting some press conferences, some pressers. But Donald Trump, a verdict has been reached in the hush money trial. And we will continue to await here. Twitter. Hold on just 1 second before I do that. Hold on. Maybe restarting the Twitter. Hold on. The Twitter feed. Let me just check out something. Sorry, Manhattan. All right, so let's do this. Cherry, Manhattan. We're going to listen in here. We are listening in on anyone. And again, all cameras are pointing to the same location. So Twitter, I'm going to be restarting the stream. Please come right back. All right, I have restarted the Twitter stream. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to him. Doom, how's it going? Hey, Khalil Amani's World, my boo. Good to see you. We got Roasted Toast, Jason Holmes, and we got Dalai Lama's Tea. Those numbers are continuing to rise. Thank you, Twitter, for coming back. As we proceed to wait, let's talk a little bit about this particular this case. Okay. So let me just get you the latest there. So a verdict has been reached in the Donald Trump trial. Trump has kept a straight face when the judge announced there was a verdict. The verdict on oh god, okay, count one, they have found him guilty. Count one, they have found Donald Trump guilty. I am reading a live stream or a live feed here. So the verdict in Donald Trump's hush money trial is now being read in the courtroom. The 34 count stemmed from 11 invoices, 12 vouchers, and 11 checks that made up Trump's monthly reimbursement payments to Michael Cohen, who fronted the $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Please share this live out, everyone. Donald Trump has been found guilty in count one. We are awaiting count two. We are awaiting count two. Shout out to the 515 watching. The majority of you are on Twitter. Thank you very much. Donald Trump has been found guilty in count one. I am awaiting additional information here. Oh, gosh. Okay, guys, Donald Trump has been found guilty in count one. He has been found guilty in count two. He has been found guilty in count three, in count four, and count five. So far, we have 5 guilty verdicts. We're awaiting counts 6 through 34. Definitely please share the video out. We've got 560 watching on Twitter. I will continue to give you this information. So far, Donald Trump's been found guilty in 5 counts. And again, this is related to the hush money trial in which a $130,000 payment was made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. We're awaiting on count 6 through 34, but Donald Trump has been found guilty in 5 out of 34 counts. Thank you, Global Empire. Thank you. All right. I'm watching I've got, oh gosh, guys, Donald Trump has now been found guilty on count 6. He has been found guilty on count 7. Donald Trump's been found guilty on count 8, guilty on count 9, guilty on count 10, guilty on count 11, and guilty on count 12. So we have got 12 out of 34. Donald Trump has been found guilty. Okay, he's been found guilty. All right. Trump has been convicted. He is being convicted as we speak. Guys, Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts. Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts. Count 1 through count 34, Donald Trump has been found guilty. He stared ahead as the guilty verdict was read. The former president has not even moved as each count was read. He was found guilty of falsifying business records in a hush money scheme, and a Manhattan jury has found Donald Trump guilty of falsifying business records in connection to Stormy Daniels' hush money scheme. Donald Trump has been found guilty in all counts in the hush money trial. He has been convicted on all charges, everyone. Let's see how the crowd is reacting. Again, if you're just joining, Donald Trump has been found guilty on all charges. This is unprecedented. This is absolutely unprecedented. Not only have we never had a president that has ever been convicted of a crime, we have a former president that has now been convicted on 34 felony counts of the hush money scheme with Stormy Daniels. Donald Trump has been convicted on all charges. On all charges. Let's listen in to the crowd. Shout out to the 700 watching on Twitter. Thank you. Shout out to those of you on Instagram as well. Donald Trump has been found guilty on all charges, everyone. Let's continue to watch. Wow. Unprecedented. Unprecedented. I hear some celebrating, and I also hear some booing. Trump's attorney is now asking for the jury to poll the verdict. So just to kind of mute this, Donald Trump's attorney is now asking the jury to be polled on the verdict. The court officer asked if either party wants the jury polled, and Donald Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, says yes. Let's continue to listen to what's going on outside the courthouse. Never in history has this ever happened. This is the first time in history where a president or former president has ever been convicted of a crime. This crime was done right prior to him being elected into office, in which a $130,000 hush money payment was made to Stormy, the sex worker that he hired, who he had a relationship with. Michael Cohen, the man who went to prison for 3 years for hiding all of Donald Trump's secrets, was freed and also testified at this trial, and it did hurt Donald Trump. Again, if you're just joining us, Donald Trump has been convicted on all 34 felony charges. He is facing jail time. Yesterday, the Secret Service met with New York City jail officials to determine how, if Donald Trump goes into jail, how that's going to look. What is that going to look like? Because former President Donald Trump has been president, he is actually entitled to Secret Service protection for the rest of his life. So the Secret Service met with New York City officials, and the question is, how are they going to protect him from a Secret Service perspective while he's in jail? Donald Trump may very well go to Rikers, depending on how much time Donald Trump receives. Depending on how much time Donald Trump receives, he could end up in Rikers for a period of time until he is transferred to a state penitentiary. Donald Trump is facing 4 years per count. Right now, this is the only view that we have outside the courtroom. All right. Let's see here. What is this? That was May. Nope, that's not it. All right. Live. What a day in America. What a day in America. All right. Just so that you all know, Donald Trump is still in the courtroom, and while the jury was being polled, Donald Trump has turned to watch the jury as each member has confirmed their verdict. Donald Trump, who remained staring straight ahead as the guilty verdict was read on each count, looked over toward the jury box as each member of the panel confirmed their verdict. He's now gone back to looking straight ahead with a straight face as Judge Juan Merchan thanks the jurors. So this is just ongoing. We've got some folks coming out of the courtroom at this point. Okay, we've got some people coming out. We've got a lot of people standing outside the courthouse right now. Never in the history has this ever happened, global empire. Hey, Khalil Amani's World. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Roasted Toast, Jason Holmes, Nakai, Dalai Lama's Tea. Good to see you all. Feel free to share this video if you'd like, especially those of you on Twitter. There's about 700 of you watching. Thank you very much. But again, if you are just now joining us, Donald Trump has been convicted of all 34 counts. He has been found guilty. This I'm going to kind of turn this down here because we're just kind of listening to the crowd, watching everyone, just so you all know. These 34 counts stemmed from 11 invoices, 12 vouchers, and 11 checks that make up Trump's monthly reimbursement payments to Michael Cohen, who fronted the $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. He was found guilty from count 1 all the way through count 4. Not even a question. As he stared ahead, motionless. Here he comes. Here he comes. Here's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's making a statement.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for a convicted felon?
Are you going to drop out? You believe in the rule of law? You trust the jury?
All right, Donald Trump just gave a statement after being found guilty on all 34 counts related to the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels that was made through Michael Cohen. He stood trial for the last 6 weeks. In the first day, he was asleep at the defense table, which I sure did not bide well over for the judge. What does this mean? Is Donald Trump going straight to jail? And what does jail mean? Does that mean Rikers until he's what is his sentence going to be? Donald Trump is facing up to 4 years per charge. 4 years per charge. I'm waiting to see if anyone else is going to come up and speak on this. We've got cameras coming in from all angles. All right, guys, sentencing is set. Information here for you. All right, let me share this information while you look at that. Sentencing has been set for July the 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. This date is obviously close to the Republican National Convention, which is set to begin on July 15th. Will Donald Trump even make it to the Republican National Convention? If Donald Trump is imprisoned, I don't think he's going to make it to the Republican National Convention, and he is the leading uh, official for the Republican Party. He has been running for presidential office for 2024. Now, just so you know, the judge did deny Trump's attorney's request for an acquittal. Trump attorney Todd Blanche did move for an acquittal of these charges, notwithstanding the verdict. Blanche says there's no way the jury could have reached the verdict without the testimony of Michael Cohen, and that the defense believes Michael Cohen committed perjury at this trial. The judge, Juan Merchan, denied this motion. Now, the jury has been excused, and Judge Merchant has thanked them for their service. Judge Juan Merchant says he'll meet with the jurors personally to thank them further, but says he cannot discuss the facts of the case. But said, I do want to personally thank you for your service. And the jury has been excused, and alternates have also left the courtroom at this time. Donald Trump stared straight, stoic into the courtroom, frowning as he left the courtroom. He grabbed his son Eric's head and shook it rapidly before starting to walk out. Donald Trump is red in the face, and both father and son look upset. Trump calls this hush money trial a disgrace, as you just seen there, and a rigged trial. Again, also, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has left the courtroom. His prosecution team is waiting to be allowed to leave at this time, but a jury has found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts. These are people standing outside. I'm sure we won't see anything else from Donald Trump at this time. He has said what he had to say. He feels like this was rigged against him, but that does not change the circumstances that former President Donald Trump has been found guilty on all charges. This is a historic day of unprecedented proportions, folks. And I do mean a very historic day. Never in the history of America have we ever experienced a president or former president being convicted in a criminal trial, facing years in jail. All this, he paid off Stormy so that he could win the presidency. And now look, he got through the presidency, but it ended up coming to bite him in the end. This is what we call karma, right? You know how you'll do something because you want to accomplish a goal at the time, but later on down the line, it can come to bite. And that's what appears to have happened here with Donald Trump. Again, if you're just now joining, Donald Trump has been convicted of all 34 felony charges in New York. And the jury verdict was unanimous. Shout out to those of you on Instagram. I see you all. Thanks for joining. Hey, Mouth TV, good to see you as always. I see a lot of you in Instagram. I have been streaming there a lot lately, but yes, We are watching former President Donald Trump probably on his way home at this time, but he will be back in court on July the 11th for sentencing. And let's keep in mind, there are 2 more criminal cases pending against Donald Trump. He still has the Georgia situation to deal with, the Georgia charges to deal with, and he also has to deal with the charges that he took classified materials into Mar-a-Lago and wherever else. But they were found. The FBI did, um, come through the door of his Mar-a-Lago home and confiscated those classified documents. His passport was already taken away from him several months ago. And so Donald Trump doesn't have anywhere to go. Let's listen in on kind of what's happening outside the courtroom here, people. Again, sentencing is July 11th. We'll continue to listen in here.
I know what it feels like to be a Mets fan. Hey, talk to me about this. No, I get that. But you think he'll do the presser today? Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he'll make a statement today, for sure. Stay in the New York close to being done. Nope. Long day, maybe one. He'll definitely make a statement. Whether or not Trump makes a statement for the state. I mean, he might have already made his statement in the hallway, but he's out. Super like I would be shocked if he did anything in town. He's gonna set the stage. Like from here on out, it's all instant.
May I mention something here as we continue to watch? You all, the jury got this case yesterday. Okay, the jury got this case yesterday, and we're talking in less than 24 hours, in nearly in 12 hours, legit 12 hours. The jury found Trump guilty on all 34 counts of this case. Donald Trump has called it a disgrace and a rigged trial. He claims he's an innocent man. He claims he didn't do anything wrong. And he said, and what he came out and said during his speech, he said that, and believe me, and understand, Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee for president. He said that, quote, the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people, referring to the general election, going on to say that they know what happened here and everybody knows what happened here. He railed against the Manhattan District Attorney and the Biden administration, which he falsely claims influenced the case. So what happens now following this verdict? Even before jury selection began weeks ago, former President Donald Trump's legal team was preparing their strategy for appeal. And Trump's legal team is likely going to make the argument that their client would have never been able to get a fair trial in Manhattan. Trump attorney Todd Blanche has already moved for an acquittal of the charges, notwithstanding the verdict. But Trump has left the courtroom. So we're going to continue to watch what's happening outside the courtroom here, folks. Donald Trump is 77 years old, people. And as we, sit here and continue to watch this, I'd like to kind of give you a little bit of detail here, more behind, what happens now. Now that Donald Trump has been convicted in the New York hush money criminal trial, it raises a lot of questions. This is a case that is in uncharted territory where a judge will have to determine for the first time whether a former president should be in prison for a felony conviction. Trump was convicted by this jury on all 34 counts for falsifying business records to conceal that $130,000 payment, okay, that was made to adult film star Stormy Daniels to buy her silence before the 2016 presidential election. The jury in Manhattan returned that guilty verdict after this trial stretched 6 weeks and featured more than 20 witnesses. Each of the 34 felony charges carries up to a $5,000 fine and a 4-year prison sentence. But whether Trump will go to prison is another question. That's up to the judge at sentencing. Now, the judge set the July date for sentencing following the jury's verdict on today. And the timing is in line with similar white collar felony cases where sentencing often takes place anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks after conviction. And this is according to Dan Horowitz, a defense lawyer who formerly prosecuted white collar cases for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. So, what do we expect from sentencing? The sentencing is going to happen again 4 days before the start of the Republican National Convention. The minimum sentence for falsifying business records in the first degree is 0. So Trump could receive probation or conditional discharge, a sentence of no jail, or up to 4 years for each offense. Trump would likely be ordered to serve the prison time concurrently for each count, so up to 4 years total. Now, the judge could sentence him to anything between 0 and the max. So he could sentence him to a period of months in jail. He could sentence him to a period of weeks in jail. He could sentence him to a sentence where he is required, for example, to go to jail every weekend for a period of time and then serve the rest of the sentence on probation. So there are some options here. Now, in an analysis of comparable cases brought by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Norm Eisen, who had written a book about Trump's 2020 election-related federal indictment and served as special counsel in the first impeachment of the former president. And keep in mind, Donald Trump was impeached not once, but twice. Okay. He found that about 10% resulted in imprisonment, but the circumstances surrounding the case make any across the board comparison extremely difficult. Trump could be sentenced to home detention, where he would wear an ankle bracelet and be monitored rather than going to jail. It was also suggested that a home detention service, which walks a middle ground between no punishment and a stint in state prison, could be the most likely outcome, which would also satisfy Trump's unusual security and political situation. Give me one moment.
offenses. There are constitutional issues that he can raise. There is a lot there that he can use as this campaign unfolds to argue and point to that this entire prosecution was flawed from the get-go.
I think we all have a lot of questions, too, about what happens next, not
What
only in the
happens next?
political arena, but also what happens to Donald Trump. So I do want to bring back in Caroline Polisi. She, Caroline, the judge, as we've noted, has wide discretion over the sentence here. But do you think that Judge Merchan will sentence the former president to prison?
I don't. I personally do not think that, look, for better or for worse, Trump has been treated like any other criminal defendant. The fact is, based on a reading of a lot of these types of cases, not many are actually sent to serve time. And so if you're treating the former president just like any other regular Manhattanite that would have been sentenced here, as a first-time nonviolent offender, it would be very unlikely that he would go to prison. I think that if he does get sentenced, that would just sort of add fuel to his fire in terms of acting as though he's being singled out here. So not to mention the fact that there would be issues with the Secret Service. He would not be with the general population. It would be a big burden on the prison system to have him there. So personally, I think that the objectives of sentencing can be accomplished through other forms of punishment, fines, probation, that type of thing. So I don't see it happening personally.
What do you think is the more likely sentence?
I think he will get a probationary sentence. I think that there will be fines to be, tied to the offense conduct in this case. Look, the fact is it's not going to have any effect on his run for presidency from a legal perspective. Obviously, there's nothing in the Constitution that, says that he cannot run. On the voting part, he's registered to vote in Florida, and they do sort of concede to the state in which the potential felony has been adjudicated. And in New York State, any felon can vote as long as they're not currently incarcerated serving time. So if he doesn't serve any time, he will definitely be able to vote.
In researching and preparing for today, I did read, though, that if Donald Trump is sentenced to probation, he would be required to clear any out-of-state travel, such as campaign rallies or fundraisers, with a probation officer.
Well, that is absolutely true.
Yeah. I guess that can be done through staff and lawyers, but nevertheless, something we haven't seen before.
Absolutely. And that happens every day. I do that for my clients a lot, all the time. It is not fun dealing with probation, getting every little, detail of your life, really having them sign off on any time you want to travel. I do not see the former president, conceding lightly to this type of probationary sentence, but nonetheless, he will have to.
And then finally, Caroline, on grounds for appeal, what do you think Trump's attorneys could latch onto?
There are a lot of grounds for appeal here, starting with just the law, the statute under which the DA brought this case. There's been a lot said about this issue of unanimity among jurors. While the elements of the offense here were reached unanimously, there is this added little hook here that the object offense here, the New York State election law conspiracy, had to be done through quote unquote unlawful means. The jurors did not have to find unanimously with respect to what those unlawful means were. Remember, there were 3 presented to them: tax fraud, FICA violations, and other falsification of business records. I think there are potential due process issues in that statute. And then with respect to the jury instructions, they weren't allowed to bring them back with them. There will be questions on just how they arrived at their verdict. There is a lot here. I'm not convinced that any will take the day, but I do think that they are not frivolous arguments.
Carolyn, thank you. I just want to share with you what we're hearing from our Pat Milton, a producer out there, is that as soon as the verdict was released, the NYPD dramatically increased their presence there. You may have been able to hear, as Robert Costa was speaking, or Errol Barnett, the NYPD helicopters flying overhead of the courthouse. Streets all locked down there. I think you still see the president's motorcade there. That's the shot there. There's some 100 mixed onlookers, protesters, supporters. There are Trump supporters there wearing red MAGA hats. They are gathered. So it is quite the scene in Manhattan there for this historic verdict. Just to remind everyone, just a short time ago, learning that this jury of 12 were unanimous in convicting Donald Trump on all 34 counts. And Donald Trump will be sentenced now on July 11th. That date's significant, certainly, as he will become a convicted felon just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. And Major, I'm wondering what happens now in the next couple of weeks. Donald Trump can now campaign freely, which he has had trouble doing because he has had to appear in court every day.
Right.
So he can travel the country. We don't know what will happen on July 11th, but if he sends to probation, he could still be out there on the campaign trail.
He could still be out on the campaign trail, providing it's approved through all the probationary processes, which is also uncharted terrain. And in the one sense that I think this trial matters politically is that for the former president, every day at the courthouse was a day to prepare for this day. He knew that charges rendered against him could result in a guilty verdict. So how do you prepare for that? You don't prepare for it psychologically, not if you're former President Trump. You prepare for it politically. And seeding the clouds every single day with deep-seated questions about the process and the orientation of the judge, the jury, the proceedings around it, some of it completely without factual basis, some of it driven entirely by grievance, some of it completely ignoring the underlying facts, but some of it based on his own gut sense that if he were convicted, what he had to do in that intervening time, however long this trial took, was prepare his supporters for the idea that if it was a guilty verdict, it would be on its moment deemed fraudulent and offensive to them. That's the political terrain that the former president has occupied every single day of this trial. And it now takes on greater significance because in his rhetoric, what I foretold has now happened, and I will campaign on that basis.
I want to bring in Ed O'Keefe, who is at the White House and has traveled recently with President Biden out on the campaign trail. What are you hearing from Biden's advisors?
Nora, we've just gotten off the phone with White House and campaign officials who tell us we will not see or hear from the president for the remainder of today. He remains at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, with his family privately marking the death of his son, Beau. Campaign aides stress that the reaction to this, whatever it looks like in the coming days, is expected to be modest because it is their view, based on polling done by us, by other news organizations, by the campaign, that this is not going to move large blocks of voters in battleground states in any real measurable way, that opinions on the former president are pretty much baked in. And to that point, we saw just minutes after this verdict, the former president send an appeal to his supporters to donate to his campaign, calling him a, quote, political prisoner. We saw the current president use his Twitter or X account to blast out a fundraising appeal to his supporters, saying this will all be determined in November. And so both of these campaigns now are preparing for just that. In the case of the Biden campaign, he was in Philadelphia yesterday speaking about the economy, trying to sustain support with black voters, and aides that I was just speaking with remind us the plan is to keep focused on issues like access to abortion rights, corporate greed. You're going into the month of June, so you're dealing with a lot of anniversaries around mass shootings, and that's expected to be part of his focus. And on the world stage, he'll be in France and Italy in the next 2 weeks, meeting with European leaders. There's news this afternoon from here regarding the expansion of the military operations in Ukraine. Just be presidential and allow that contrast to stand alongside what we're seeing on the streets of New York and continue to play out. I'm being handed a statement from the White House counsel's office, and this will stand, Nora, as the only official comment from the White House today. Spokesman for the White House counsel's office saying, quote, "We respect the rule of law and have no additional comment." Nora?
Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much. I want to bring back in Cy Vance as we watch the president's motorcade leave the courthouse there. And Cy, thank you again for staying with us. And it's great to have your expertise as the former Manhattan District Attorney. So Trump would likely have to visit this probation office. Is that now? What is that like?
Well, he, like every other defendant, is going to be interviewed by the probation department because the probation department makes a recommendation to the judge regarding sentence as a state organizational matter. I don't know whether that he was checking that box out while he was still in court. More likely, he was staying there because of the security issues that they wanted to have locked down between courthouse and his Trump residence.
Yeah, and Cy, Major Garrett has a question for you.
Cy, so good to have you with us.
Yeah,
could you, from your perspective, answer or inform parts of the country that hear former President Trump say this case never should have been brought? There is no crime. It is so novel as to stretch all understood bounds of prosecution, even in Manhattan. Those are, I think, the core accusations meant to undermine what we're seeing playing out today. Can you address those?
Well, first of all, you've got to go through a process before you charge anyone, let alone the president, of presenting a case to a grand jury. Those grand jury minutes are reviewed by a judge. The judge goes through innumerable layers of motions to dismiss. I reject the claim that Judge Merchan is biased. Obviously, the former president would disagree with that, but I think he's a very middle-of-the-road, smart, disciplined jurist, and I think he deserves huge credit for managing a very, very difficult case and a very difficult client. So it's easy to blame New York. It's easy to blame the Manhattan DA's office. We were the first office to indict his alter ego company and pursue investigations against him. But that's because it's because of what he did, not because of politics.
Cy, let me ask you, you know Judge Merchan, certainly within the legal system. Do you think he will sentence Donald Trump to prison?
I doubt it. I doubt it. And but giving what Judge Merchan wide room to not telling him anything about what to do. I think that if this were an more ordinary case, given that Alan Weisselberg was sent to 3 months in prison and then another 3 months for lying, that his boss, Donald Trump, in any other world would probably be getting an equivalent sentence. A sentence of jail is not required for an e-felony, which is what he's been convicted of now. And your other panelists have said there are lots of options, from home arrest to checking in with the probation before leaving the state. There are lots of ways that they can try to control the president's behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I heard what you said, Cy, that you doubt that Judge Merchan would sentence Donald Trump to prison time. But if he did sentence him to prison time, do you think he would grant bond on his appeal while he makes the appeal?
I honestly don't see a world in which Donald Trump is sentenced to jail.
Yeah, I think that's an important clarification. Yeah, an important, and I appreciate that, Cy Vance. I want to just bring in Katrina Kaufman. She is also there outside the courthouse. And Katrina, I know you were inside. You saw Donald Trump up close. Share with us your reporting.
I was sitting right there as Donald Trump exited the courtroom after this verdict, a very deep frown on his face, followed by his attorney, Todd Blanche, who looked equally upset, and his son, Eric. And as the jury had come into the room before to deliver the verdict, Trump was looking towards them, and none of them looked him in the eye.
Share with us your reporting.
And as you can see, guys, things are getting kind of crazy outside the courthouse. Let's just kind of listen in a little bit. You see some smiling. We can see Donald Trump's entourage leaving the courthouse as those continue to stand outside. And this is no question an unprecedented day in the day, in politics, just period. Something I think a lot of folks, have been waiting on. And I know there are another, part of folks that feel this case is just unwarranted. So, again, as I continue to wrap up here, as I prepare to close down, again, Donald Trump has been convicted on all 34 felony charges. Will he go to jail? Will he face jail? Will he go to Rikers and then on to a state penitentiary? A lot of experts say that is not the case, but you all, let's not forget, Donald Trump has 2 more very serious cases that he must face. So, anyway, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through for this breaking news, specifically Twitter, all 700 of you who jumped right in here so quickly. Please continue to spread the word. You can, subscribe to me for continual content of this nature. I cover all things from news, paranormal, to aliens, humanoids, non-human intelligence, pretty much anything that, uh, you know, th- that I find of interest, that many others find of interest as well. Again, this is a day in history. We can see that Donald Trump's entourage is stuck in a traffic stop here. So, you all, this is going to be interesting. More to come on the nightly news, you all. And I will be back later on tonight, everyone. Before we get up out of here, allow me to pay a few bills if you don't mind.
Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
All right. Again, guys, I encourage you to subscribe or follow the Twitter channel Leaks Online, where those of you, as 700 of you, are watching right now. Also, please follow my official podcast platform at anchor.fm/LeakYou. You can also find me on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I've also recently been accepted for iHeartRadio. So I have been publishing podcast iHeartRadio as well. And it's been amazing how many people have been engaging on our official podcast platform. So please subscribe to whatever platform you utilize, whether it's Spotify, Amazon, Apple, et cetera, et cetera. I do appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. You all, there is so much more to come on this. And again, I will be back live later to discuss this further. Thanks again to all of you that came through. Until next time.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.